They said silence keeps you safe. For Ellie, Sanders' silence was a weapon. The classroom was still. She sat near the window, her pen steady on the page. Behind her, quiet steps approached. Then, snip, a lock of hair fell onto her desk. Laughter burst out. Someone whispered, "Did you get that?" Phones lifted. Trevor Langston backed away, scissors in hand, grin wide. Mr. Davidson looked up, paused, then kept teaching. Ellie stood. No anger, no tears, just calm. "I will call the police," she said. The room froze. In 30 minutes, a girl no one defended would make the world watch. Not by fighting harder, but by proving what they chose not to see. Ellie sat at the edge of the cafeteria, a sandwich wrapped in foil on the table. No one joined her. Around the room, students laughed in groups. None looked her way, yet somehow she felt watched. A girl 2 tables down leaned in and whispered. Another followed her gaze. They didn't smile. They didn't stop staring. Ellie kept her eyes on her phone. On the screen, a photo her little brother on a broken bike, her mom holding a paper grocery bag, their trailer parked near a chain-link fence. She zoomed in and out of the image. Again. Then again. It was all she had. Someone passed behind her. A tray slammed onto the table next to hers. Laughter. Ellie didn't flinch. Inside, she built a wall. Outside, the cracks were already starting to show. The bell had just rung. Ellie walked into class with her notebook pressed to her chest. She chose a seat in the back, like always. Harper Matthews glanced over, nudged her friend, and stood, a water bottle in hand. Ellie opened her book. Before she could write, cold water spilled across the pages, slow, deliberate. Gasps. A pause, then laughter. Harper shrugged. "Oops, must have slipped." Ellie stared at the soaked ink bleeding through her notes. She didn't say a word. Mr. Davidson walked in, glanced at the scene, and cleared his throat. "Take your seats." Ellie wiped the page with her sleeve, her hand trembling just slightly. No one offered help. No one spoke up. That page, ruined and curling, said everything this place believed about her. Ellie sat on the floor outside the library, her back against the wall. The halls were empty now. She pressed her phone to her ear. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was soft, controlled. "Yeah. No, today was fine. Classes are good. People are friendly." She smiled even though no one could see it. It wasn't real. On the other end, her mother's voice was warm but tired. "I'm proud of you, baby. Keep your head up." "I will." Ellie hung up. She stared at the blank hallway. Her hand slowly lowered the phone. The smile faded. Her sleeve was still damp from the water. Her notebook ruined. No one had cared. She reached into her bag, pulled out her notebook, and tore out the soaked page, quiet, slow, without expression. The hallway was lined with posters. Academic awards, sports victories, smiling faces in perfect lighting. Near the end, one stood out. Ellie's. Westfield Honor Scholar. Ellie Sanders. It read. Her photo showed her in a simple blue shirt holding a certificate, but across her face someone had written in thick red ink, "Trash." Ellie stopped in front of it. She didn't touch it. She didn't look around. Behind her, 2 students walked by snickering. Another snapped a photo. "Poster girl just got a makeover." The red letters dripped slightly like they'd been drawn fast. Angry. Ellie stared at the poster for a second longer, then walked away. That word would appear again, on her locker, on a chair, in whispers. And still, no one said a thing. The door to chemistry clicked shut behind Ellie. The room was already half full. Conversations died the moment she walked in. She didn't look up. As she walked to her seat, someone whispered, "Trailer girl's here." She sat in the far corner. No one beside her, no one in front. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, slid it under her sleeve. One tap. Recording started. She placed the phone on the desk screen down. Her face didn't change, but her eyes were alert now, watching everything. Behind her, Trevor laughed. "Bet she's recording now," he joked. He wasn't wrong. Ellie stared at the whiteboard, unmoving. This wasn't about grades anymore. She needed proof. and today she'd start collecting it. Trevor leaned back in his chair loud enough for the whole row to hear. "My dad just donated 70 grand for that new scoreboard," he said. "Coach says I could fail chem and still make varsity." A few students laughed. One fist bumped him. He went on casually, "And if anyone gives me crap, Dad talks to the board. It's that simple." Ellie didn't react. Her eyes stayed on her notes, but her phone, still recording, sat just inches from his voice. The teacher kept scribbling on the board, oblivious or indifferent. Trevor tapped his pen against the desk, smirking. Some people buy books. Some buy the school. No one challenged him. But in Ellie's pocket, the first piece of the story had already been saved. "Hey, Ellie Harper," called out in the hallway voice, light fake. "Need help finding the science lab?" Ellie hesitated. "No. Come on, I'll show you." Harper smiled. Too wide. They walked past the gym out to the back courtyard, past the koi pond. "Right over here," Harper said. Then shoved. Ellie caught the edge of the railing, barely staying upright. Water splashed up as her foot slipped. She pulled herself back. Harper stepped back laughing. Two girls nearby raised their phones. Hours later, a video went up. "Scholarship girl freaks out, nearly attacks Harper," the caption read. It was cropped, twisted, no context. Ellie watched the views climb. The comments pile in, and she realized this wasn't just bullying anymore. This was a setup. Ellie sat stiffly in the chair outside the principal's office, hands folded around her phone. Inside, voices rose, then hushed. Finally, the door opened. Mr. Davidson gestured. "Come in." She stepped inside and stood, not waiting to be told. "I have something to report about Harper and the video." He sighed, leaned back. "Ellie, I've seen it. It's fake. I know what I saw," he cut in. "And frankly, going down this path, it isn't going to help you." She frowned. "So, I'm the problem now." He folded his hands. "You're on a scholarship. You've got a bright future. I'd hate to see you risk that over a misunderstanding." Ellie's heart pounded. His message was clear. Stay quiet or lose everything. The library was almost empty. Ellie sat between two shelves, laptop open but untouched. Emma Cho slipped into the seat across from her, eyes scanning the room first. She spoke softly. "I saw what happened. I believe you." Ellie looked up, surprised. "Why now?" Emma hesitated, then said, "My sister went here. She was like you. Smart, different. They called her names, pushed her around. She swallowed hard. She never told anyone. And one day she just stopped coming." Ellie's voice dropped. "What happened?" Emma didn't answer right away. Then, "She's not here anymore." Silence. Emma leaned in. "If you're going to fight this, don't wait. They won't stop unless someone makes them." For the first time that day, Ellie didn't feel alone, not completely. That night, Ellie's phone buzzed. A message from Emma. "Library server, admin folder. Use this passcode." Ellie opened her laptop, logged in, and found it camera footage from the history classroom. The angle was perfect. Trevor stepping forward. The scissors, the laughter. Mr. Davidson looking, then turning away. She watched it twice, then once more without blinking. She created a new TikTok account, no name, no face. Just one video, no caption, no sound, just 30 seconds of truth. She hit post. Within an hour, it passed 10,000 views. By midnight, it was over 200,000. Comments flooded in. "Expel him. Where's the teacher who lets this happen?" Ellie didn't reply. She didn't sleep. She just watched. The silence was finally breaking. By morning, the video had crossed 1 million views. News blogs picked it up. A local station called it the silent scream of a broken system. Westfield went into lockdown mode, no press allowed on campus. Rumors spread. Students whispered in corners. Teachers avoided eye contact. Ellie was called into the main office, then sent away without explanation. That afternoon, flyers appeared, emergency staff meeting, closed session. She sat outside the gym watching adults rush past with folders and frowns. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I have something you need. Music room. After 5th period. No name, just that. She read it again, then deleted it. Whatever was waiting there, she had to go. She just didn't know if it was help or a trap. The music room was dim and quiet, filled with the soft hum of forgotten instruments. Ellie stepped in slowly, her footsteps light. Catherine Morrison, former civics teacher, long since reassigned, was waiting near the piano. She didn't smile. I wasn't sure you'd come, Catherine said. I almost didn't, Ellie replied. Catherine reached into her bag and pulled out a small USB drive. I've been recording board meetings for 2 years. No one knows, not even my department head. Ellie stared at it. Why? Catherine hesitated. Because I stopped believing they'd protect the kids, especially kids like you. She placed the drive in Ellie's hand. You want to take them down? This will do it. Ellie clutched the USB. Proof. Real, undeniable proof, and someone finally willing to stand with her. Ellie sat alone in the library, headphones and the USB drive plugged into her laptop. Folder after folder, each labeled by date. Meetings, memos, recordings. She clicked one marked Septembre 12, Finance Session. Voices filled her ears, familiar but clearer than ever. Dr. Brennan. If we discipline Trevor, the Langstons pull funding. The scoreboard, the auditorium wing, gone. Another voice. But the video, Dr. Brennan again. We manage the narrative. Accidents happen. The girl's on scholarship. She'll keep quiet if she wants to stay. Ellie pressed pause. Her hands shook. There it was. Not rumor, not assumption. Cold, clean proof that this wasn't about students, it was about money. They didn't just ignore what happened to her. They planned to bury it, on purpose. The library was nearly empty. Late afternoon sun stretched across the carpet. Ellie sat still, laptop open, the USB beside her. She had heard everything. Every word. Every cover-up. Every choice that wasn't about students. She leaned back, eyes fixed on the screen, not blinking. No more waiting. She drafted a short email, attached the file, then copied the same message into 2 more, one to the local paper, one to a state education blog, one to a national watchdog site. No name, no plea. Just, this is happening at Westfield Academy. You need to hear it. She hit send, then unplugged the USB and slipped it into her pocket. Ellie didn't feel scared. Not anymore. She was done asking to be heard. Now she was making sure no one could ignore her. By morning, the story had broken. 3 sites. 1 headline, elite school. Covers up abuse to protect donor's son. Clips of the audio played on podcasts, news feeds, even morning radio. Dr. Brennan's voice calm and clear. She's on scholarship. She'll stay quiet. Students gathered in hallways, phones out listening. Parents called the front office nonstop. Alumni threatened to pull funding. The school's website crashed. By 2nd period, Westfield issued a single-line statement. Principal Davidson has been placed on leave pending investigation. Teachers whispered behind closed doors. Mr. Davidson's name was removed from the weekly bulletin. Ellie didn't speak. She didn't need to. The world had finally heard what she already knew, and now it was demanding answers. The school parking lot overflowed with cars. Parents paced outside the office, some shouting, some recording. A meeting was scheduled, but no one waited quietly anymore. Inside, Harper sat in the art room phone, propped up live streaming. This is all being twisted, she said, voice shaking just enough. None of us meant harm. We were just joking. It wasn't serious. She paused, scanning the screen. Thousands were watching. The comments scrolled fast. You poured water on her notes. You pushed her at the pond. You're only sorry you got caught. Her face dropped. Her hand trembled. She ended the stream without a word. For the first time, Harper Matthews wasn't leading the narrative. She was drowning in it. 2 days later, Ellie was called to the counselor's office. She expected questions, maybe warnings. Instead, Ms. Reyes handed her a letter. The school board has requested your presence. Tomorrow. You'll have 5 minutes to speak." Ellie read the words twice. Her hands stayed steady. "Do I have to?" she asked. "No," the counselor said gently, "but you should know. Students, parents, press. They'll all be there." Ellie nodded once. "I'll go." She left the office in silence. Later that night, she sat at her desk with a blank page in front of her. Not a speech, not a statement, just facts. They tried to bury her voice. Tomorrow, she would bring it to the surface in front of every person who once refused to hear it. The auditorium was packed. School board members at the front rows of parents, faculty, and students behind. Cameras lined the walls. The air was tense, expectant. Ellie stepped up to the podium, the USB clutched in her hand. She didn't clear her throat, didn't smile, just spoke. "This is a recording from a staff meeting last month." She plugged in the drive. Speakers crackled. Then Dr. Brennan's voice filled the room. "If we discipline Trevor, the Langstons pull funding. The girl's on scholarship. She'll stay quiet." Gasps. A few people shifted uncomfortably. One board member dropped their pen. Ellie said nothing. She didn't have to. The room was silent, but not empty. It was finally listening. As the audio ended, murmurs spread through the auditorium. A board member leaned toward the mic, ready to pivot to redirect. Then a voice rose from the audience. "I'd like to speak." Catherine Morrison stood near the back, calm, composed. Eyes on the board. "I've taught here for 18 years. I've watched students rise, and I've watched some be broken." She stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "If you penalize Ellie Sanders for exposing the truth, I will resign. Tonight, publicly." Silence. Tension held like glass. Catherine looked to Ellie, then back to the board. "You've hidden behind money, behind names. Not anymore." She returned to her seat. For a brief second, Ellie wasn't standing alone, and the board knew it. Later that day, Trevor Langston was escorted into a side room of the administrative building. His father wasn't with him, but a lawyer was. The board asked him to answer simple questions. He declined, every time. No comment, his lawyer repeated for him. Outside, 2 officers from the local precinct arrived. Not loud, not in a rush, but there. They met privately with school counsel. Legal folders exchanged. Faces turned serious. Students whispered in the hallways. "He's getting arrested." "Is this real?" Ellie watched from a distance. Not with anger, not even relief, just clarity. What started with a joke and a pair of scissors had turned into a formal investigation, and no amount of money was stopping it now. The hearing was over. The crowd had thinned. Reporters packed up. The building stood still again. Ellie walked to the car where her mother waited, engine running, eyes tired but proud. She slid into the passenger seat and closed the door. Neither of them spoke at first. Then, softly, her mom said, "You okay?" Ellie nodded, but her eyes welled up. She wiped them fast. Her mother reached over, pulled her into a hug. No words for a while. Just the quiet strength of someone who'd been through storms before. "You're not weak," she whispered. "You're just getting started." Ellie rested her head against the window as they pulled away. She didn't win everything, but she didn't lose herself, and that mattered more than anything. The next morning, headlines made it official. Westfield principal resigns amid scandal. Trevor Langston suspended indefinitely. Pending investigation. Local news showed clips from the board hearing. Catherine Morrison's stand was quoted across social platforms. Hashtags trended #justice at Westfield and #believe the quiet ones. Ellie watched it all from her phone. She didn't post, she didn't comment. The school issued a new policy on student protections. A third-party ombudsman was announced. In homeroom, the front seat where Trevor once sat remained empty. So did the one next to it. Harper had quietly transferred schools that morning. No apology ever came. But no one expected one anymore. Some stories don't end with closure. Some end with change. The hallway felt different now, quieter but not cold. Ellie walked with her backpack slung low, her pace steady. Heads turned as she passed, not with mockery this time, but with something else. Curiosity. Caution, maybe respect. Posters had been taken down. Her name no longer scrawled across lockers, no red marker, no whispers behind her back. Near the lockers, a freshman girl lingered by herself, clutching her notebook tight. As Ellie passed, the girl didn't stop her, just said softly, "You're the reason I stayed." Ellie didn't reply. She only glanced back and nodded once. That girl wasn't thanking her for winning. She was thanking her for not disappearing, for showing that sometimes one voice is enough to give someone else the courage to speak. Ellie sat at her desk that weekend, typing slowly. The homepage was simple black text on a white background. At the top, proof power, because silence doesn't protect you. She added pages how to safely record incidents, store files, encrypt messages, resources for students in schools like hers, anonymous submission forms, legal FAQs. She wasn't a lawyer, she wasn't famous, but she had something most didn't, a story people finally listened to and the courage to use it. Emma helped with layout. Catherine sent links to legal contacts. By Sunday night, the site went live. Visitors trickled in, then poured. Ellie didn't want to be remembered for what was done to her. She wanted to be known for what she built from everything they tried to break. The barber's shop was quiet, just the hum of clippers and the low murmur of a radio. Ellie sat in the chair, her reflection steady in the mirror. Her eyes didn't waver. The stylist asked gently, "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Yeah, all of it." Hair fell in soft clumps, even clean this time by her decision, not someone else's cruelty. When it was done, she ran her hand through the short layers light and even. No gasps, no laughter, just silence. Peaceful. She stared at herself for a long moment. No fear, no shame. This wasn't about starting over, it was about never letting anyone decide who she was or what she should carry again. Back home, Ellie sat on her bed legs, crossed laptop open. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She opened her anonymous TikTok account, the one that started it all, and switched it to public. Then, for the first time, she attached her name. A photo of her now. Short hair, clear eyes, no filter. Caption, "I'm not a victim. I'm not a problem to solve. I'm the evidence that silence can end." She hit post. The screen blinked. Her words were out there now, no edits, no hiding. In a feed full of noise, it felt quiet for a second, but not empty. Because this time her story didn't need defending. It stood on its own, sharp, simple, and real. Ellie closed her laptop and sat still, the glow of the screen fading behind her. Outside, wind moved through the trees. The house was quiet. On the screen, her post stayed pinned. Thousands of likes, comments rising. But none of it mattered as much as the final line she had written: "Justice begins the moment you refuse to stay silent." The words lingered for a beat. Then the screen went black. Not because the story was over, but because some stories are meant to continue in every hallway, every classroom, every quiet moment where someone decides this time they will speak. The screen stayed dark for a moment, then white text faded in plain, without music, without flash. If you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or made small, this story is also yours. A pause. Then the next line appeared. Comment, "I won't stay silent," if you've been there too. No pressure, no prompt to subscribe. Just choice. For those who understood what Ellie had lived through, the words said enough. Because sometimes the act of saying "me too" isn't about sharing pain, it's about breaking its hold. And this was their moment. To choose silence again, or finally to leave it behind. The hallway stretched ahead, quiet, steady. Ellie walked alone. Her steps calm, her gaze forward. Her short hair moved slightly with each step, catching the light from the windows above. Lockers stood silent on either side. The same place. But not the same girl. No one stopped her. No one laughed. But a few students looked up. Some nodded. One smiled. Ellie didn't nod back. She didn't need to. She had already said everything she came to say. Now she was just walking through it, a life no longer waiting for permission. The screen faded to black and stayed there. Still, enough.